Hello and welcome to Movies You Missed Podcasts. I'm V.
I'm John.
And today we are going to be discussing Man's Best Friend.
Yay, puppies and dogs and wolves and four-legged creature fuzzy things.
And I'm really excited about this episode because I had never seen John's movie before.
I don't know how that's possible. This one's been around for a long time, but I'm curious to see what you thought about it when we get into it.
Yeah, it was one of those live-action Disney movies from the early 90s that my family just didn't get around to, I guess.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But I'm looking forward to talking about it in just a minute. But before we do, welcome everyone to Movies You Missed Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. As most of you know, we are two industry veterans who love to discuss movies without spoiling them.
No spoilers here.
And besides recommending movies to you every week, we also like to watch new movies in theaters or on streaming. And this week is really special because John and I watched two movies together in the theaters.
Yeah, we did, and what a time at the movies it was.
Yes, absolutely. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Oh boy. Let's talk about this one. How about I take the reins on this one and then you take the other one?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, let's do it. I went and saw this one with you and my sister, so that was a lot of fun. The Ryan Coogler, Michael B. Jordan film Sinners. My sister, this was her second time at the movies since, well, actually, this was her first time at the movies since I took her to see Godzilla Kong: A New Empire like a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lot of fun. Well, I'm not going to spoil what V thinks, but I had a really good time with it. I thought it was pretty good. I feel like it could have been about 15 minutes shorter. But overall, I liked the exposition, I liked the use of music, I liked the not necessarily super horror aspect of it, but there were some freaky moments. I don't want to call this one a straight horror, because I didn't really feel too much terror, but overall, I had a really good time with it. I thought the cast was fantastic, and it was shot beautifully, and I really kind of wish that we were able to see it in IMAX, but that didn't happen this time around. But maybe in the next couple weeks, if it's still playing, I'll give it a shot in IMAX.
I would certainly see this movie again. I think it's a masterpiece. I loved everything about this movie. The characters were so rich and well developed, every single one of them. You're right, the cast was incredible. I love Jack O'Connell in this role. He was so creepy. And Haley Stanfield's amazing. Michael B. Jordan did such a good job playing two characters.
Hell yeah.
He met the bar that Tom Hardy had placed in Legend for playing two characters, twin brothers. Oh, I had so much fun in this movie. I totally understand if someone told me and you included, of course, if they thought the movie was about 15 minutes too long. However, I was thinking that when watching the movie as well, in that I realized, some people might think this movie's long or a little bit slow in the setup, but I was so immersed in this story and was having such a good time with these characters. I was so happy it was as long as it was. So I understand that critique.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed every minute of this movie. The soundtrack is absolutely incredible. It's my favorite Ryan Coogler movie now.
I think it likely is mine too, because while I liked the first Black Panther, I did not like Wakanda Forever at all.
I also think it's better than either of his Creed movies.
Oh, well, I haven't seen those either. Our audience knows I'm not much of a boxing movie fan, so yeah, has nothing to do with anything else other than the fact that I have not seen a Rocky movie and I just don't care about boxing that much.
And I love that he used Ludwig Göransson for composing his score.
When I saw his name pop up, I lost my shit. I was like, hell yes, that's why the soundtrack was as good as it was. It was such a badass, intense soundtrack. I really liked it.
Yes, and he did the Black Panther movies. He also did Oppenheimer, which we both absolutely fell in love with that score 2 years ago.
Yep, and he did Tenet, let's not forget.
Oh, I would never.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad that we both had a good time with Sinners.
Yes, we certainly did. I also want to mention that I think this movie is so well crafted from top to bottom.
Yeah, it's very well done. It is a very, very nice piece of movie for sure. My sister sent me a couple of things on the behind the scenes of it and how Ryan Coogler decided to shoot it, and very interesting and very fascinating stuff. He actually consulted Christopher Nolan, which was pretty awesome to see.
I could see that, especially since Ludwig works for Christopher a lot too. It makes sense that they're sharing a lot of information, and now composers.
Hell yeah.
It felt so period accurate.
Yes, it did.
Every single scene, the costuming, the cars, everything about this movie is well done. Highly, highly recommend it. It's absolutely on my movies you can't miss list of the year.
I will give you that as well. 100% cannot miss movie. Like I said, and you have now said, definitely would see it again. I think it kind of commands a second viewing only because it is so good, so much goes down, and just to kind of sink my teeth more into it, I would really like to do that.
No pun intended.
No pun intended. That was not even, that was not intentional. Do that a lot here. But yes, that was great. And one thing I do want to shout out is Lee Jun Lee. She played Grace Chow. Got to work with her on Front Cover, which I got to cover on this podcast about 2 years ago for our LGBT episode, and it was great to see her in a role like that because she was also very intense.
Yeah, she was a total badass. The one thing I will tell our audience is do not watch the trailer of this movie.
No, don't do that. Don't watch either of them because that's it.
Because we've been going to the movie theaters a lot in 2025. We've seen the full trailer of this movie several times. It literally gives the movie away. It's awful. The person who made this trailer should be fired. And
I agree.
Please, audience, just go knowing that it is a bloody vampire movie. And what I told my sister was, it's like From Dusk Till Dawn without the campiness.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll get behind that.
I'm so glad we loved this movie together.
Me too. Absolutely. Yeah, 4K will be in my collection 100%.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, that is what we saw together first. What did we see together next?
The next movie we saw was a sequel. We are talking about The Accountant 2.
Yes, we are.
And I will say I really love this character where Ben Affleck, who is on the spectrum, he's been diagnosed with autism since he was a kid, his character. I think Jon Bernthal is the hottest he's ever been in both of these movies. His costumes are incredible. They fit him really well. He looks really badass. And I thought this was a solid sequel. It's not going to be some Oscar-worthy... It's an action sequel, right?
Yeah.
It's 9 years later, and I like that they brought several characters back. But in terms of sequels, I don't think it's that bad.
I'm going to go an extra mile here and say that I actually fucking loved this movie.
Hey, there we go.
I had a complete blast. I laughed my ass off. It is hysterical.
Yes, it is funny.
Bernthal is at his best since Wolf of Wall Street, I think. And almost the same character from Wolf of Wall Street, if just adding in the hitman aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the first one, completely took me by surprise. I fucking loved it. I was in a theater full of the entire city's senior citizens, and I wish they would have shut the fuck up, but they didn't, and it kind of, in a way, added a little bit of charm to it because they were only loud during very minimal parts of the movie, but... I completely loved it, and another movie with a really damn good, emotionally charged soundtrack.
It really was, and I think in terms of grading this movie, it's a solid B- as an action film, let alone being a sequel. I certainly think that it was better than Den of Thieves 2, the other action sequel we saw this year.
Yes, I will give you that. It is a far superior sequel than Den of Thieves 2, Pantera, yes. That one is also still a lot of fun. This one it just doesn't let up, and some of the action sequences are so fucking badass in this movie, and Affleck just kicks so much ass, and he had me fucking laughing so hard in this movie.
When he's at the bar, oh my god.
Yeah, that was great.
That was
the
great.
Stuff early on in the beginning when we're reintroduced to him is just...
When he's
hysterical.
in Boise?
Yes. And then, of course, he's at the Meridian Inn, which was also hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, overall, like you said, I'd give it a B+, B-. It's not anything super spectacular, but it is so entertaining. We're at the end of April now, and 2025 has been a very hit year so far.
It is certainly redeeming last year. I feel like 2023 again. I'm so happy about this year so far.
Absolutely. And we are just getting started.
We really are, and that's a perfect reminder for everyone that we will be doing a mid-year review in June.
Yes, we will.
So we'll be talking about all of these movies a lot more in depth for that episode. But yes, we had a great time at the movies this week. I love it when our schedules line up so we can watch movies either together or in the same week so we can talk about them for our episode.
Hell yeah, me too.
Well, now that we're done discussing the new movies we've seen, it's time to rewind the clock a bit and discuss John's movie.
Sounds good to me.
All right, take it away.
I shall. Let's do it. Let's jump back into the year 1991 when this movie was released. Although this film is set in the late 1890s during the gold rush in Alaska. Alaska. That just seems to be the state that we really discuss a lot over here at Movie Zuma's podcast the last several weeks.
Lately, it sure does. Yeah, maybe it's the theme for the year.
Maybe, because you're going back to Alaska for work in a couple of weeks, so that'll be fun for you.
Yeah, that's right.
You're not going to be looking for gold, although you never know what you might find up there.
Oh, that'd be nice, though.
Yeah, I would. But let's get into my film. Like I said, 1991. This film stars Ethan Hawke in one of his very first starring roles. This also stars Klaus Maria Brandauer. He is an Austrian actor, and I just haven't seen him in anything other than this movie. He's been in a lot of stuff, but nothing that I've actually seen. Whereas Ethan Hawke, we've discussed on this podcast a couple of times.
That's right, most recently with my pick of Gattaca.
Yeah, Gattaca! Wrong movie. But anyway, this film is based on a novel written by Jack London. This film is called White Fang. I have been watching this movie since it came out. I did not see it in theaters, actually. My parents got it for me, I believe either for my birthday or one of those summer days I came home and there was a new movie sitting at home on VHS, back when those VHS tapes were about like $19 to $25. This film is written by Gene Rosenberg, Nick Thiel, and David Fallon. This film is directed by Randall Kleiser. And I love this movie so much. It's been a long time since I watched it. I think the last time I watched it was about 10 years ago, so I don't watch it as often as I should, but it's one of those great revisits for me, especially because so much of this movie is done practically, and I can only imagine the hardships that went down during the production of this movie.
Oh, yeah, because they were definitely filming on location.
Yes, it absolutely was, up in Alaska, and I think one of the craziest memories I have of this movie is when Jack gets off the boat and he's trying to find his correspondent, Alex, who we ultimately end up finding out that Alex, played by Klaus, was one of Jack's father's friends in the world of trying to go find gold, and Jack is trying to convince Alex to take him to his father's claim, where his father sent Jack a little bit of gold dust, and Jack is now on the hunt for becoming rich, and just like everybody else back in the late 1890s, they're all trying to make their money on gold. One of my craziest memories of this movie is when he goes up the golden staircase. That scene always scared the living hell out of me as a kid. It scares me now because just watching it gives me insane vertigo. I don't know how that was even remotely done back in the day, but the fact that it was is incredibly impressive. The tenacity of man trying to go out into the Alaskan wilderness to find gold, but going up this golden staircase, which is a mile from the surface level all the way up into the mountains, just absolutely insane.
The line of all the miners going up there reminded me of pictures and videos of Mount Everest, of all those people in line trying to get to the top.
Right. Yeah, I would never climb Mount Everest. I wouldn't be able to because of my heart condition, but I don't think even if I didn't have a heart condition, I don't think I would do that either.
Yeah, it's like waiting in line at Disneyland, but you could die.
Exactly. And it's really cold and the air is even thinner.
And it costs anywhere from $50 to $100,000.
Does it really? That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, anyway, that's not what we're discussing here. We're discussing White Fang. So, Jack is able to locate Alex. He convinces him to take him as far as Klondike, not necessarily all the way to his father's land, but he will get him as close as he can. So they begin this trek through the Alaskan wilderness in the snow. Along the way, they end up running into a pack of wolves, and we meet White Fang as a little puppy cub and with his mother. And ever since I was a kid, this movie was the movie that got me into wolves. Wolves are my spirit animal. I have wolf t-shirts. I am very likely to have a wolf tattoo sometime in the future. And another cool piece of trivia about this movie that changed my life was the year after this movie came out, my parents, for my birthday, ended up adopting me a black timber wolf for a year. So I got to sponsor a timber wolf. His name was Motimo. Every couple of weeks, I would get a new picture of him and a new paragraph about what he's been doing with the pack and how he's surviving and how his health is, etc., etc. It was really, really cool, and I will always credit White Fang for getting me into wolves as much as I am to this day.
That's awesome. I remember in the 90s that being a big thing where you would adopt an animal for someone.
Yes, it was really cool. So as Jack and Alex are going along for this insane trek to get to Klondike, they get to Klondike, and Alex and Jack are about to go their separate ways. However, Jack starts to convince Alex a little bit more that if he helps him get to his father's claim, then he will put him as part owner of this piece of land. He'll be able to bank on some of this gold if and when they find it. And so Alex ultimately agrees, starts to take him to his father's land. They get in a boat, they go down the river. Like I had mentioned before, we as an audience meet White Fang as a pup, and at one point while they're on their trek, Jack actually sees White Fang across the river as well as a puppy. Fast forward several months later, after all of this craziness of them going through the Alaskan wilderness in the freezing cold, they come upon an Indian village where we meet Graybeard, who has this beautiful dog hybrid. And actually, doing my research, found out that the dog that plays White Fang was an Alaskan Malamute hybrid timber wolf dog.
Whoa, nice. Yeah, that was a gorgeous dog.
So damn gorgeous. Just absolutely. Just every time I watch this movie, I want to jump through the screen and just hug him and play with him.
Mm-hmm.
So as they are hanging out in this village with Greybeard, Jack notices this dog, and this dog also notices Jack, and they have a bit of a connection. And we end up finding out that Greybeard has been calling White Fang Mia Tuck, which is the Indian version of White Fang. After they have eaten and drank their fill in the Indian village, they get back in the boat, continue heading down the river, and ultimately come upon Jack's father's plot of land. Alex starts to help Jack search for gold. We also end up finding out that Alex doesn't know how to read, so Jack gives him a proposition that says, I'll teach you how to read if you teach me how to be a miner. So they end up working together, and of course, like any other movie like this or any other story, they're going to have to go into town at one point or another. So they go into town. Greybeard is actually in town with White Fang. And this scene always really pissed me off because these guys were such assholes with this St. Bernard dog, and we ultimately find out that there is an illegal dogfighting ring being run in town. We meet Beauty. He is the runner of this illegal dogfighting ring. He is played fantastically by James Remar. And Beauty sees Greybeard with White Fang and thinks, why not? I'm going to try and get this dog. So he unleashes his St. Bernard on White Fang, and White Fang ultimately takes this dog down. So what does Beauty do? He basically tells Greybeard that he's going to be arrested because his dog has just hurt very seriously his dog. Greybeard unfortunately caves and sells White Fang to Beauty because, of course, Greybeard does not want to go to prison. So he unfortunately says his goodbyes to White Fang, and now Beauty has White Fang, and he does everything he can to train and turn White Fang into a dog fighting champion. And at one point, a couple months later, Jack ultimately saves White Fang from this dogfighting ring and gets him out of Beauty's life. And for the rest of the movie, we are along for this adventurous film of Jack and Alex trying to not only become rich off of finding gold on this plot of land, but we are also treated to a beautiful story between Jack and White Fang while Jack rehabilitates White Fang from being a very intense, angry dogfighting wolf hybrid into a domesticated working dog. And that is the story of White Fang. Like I said, have been watching this movie since 1991, which is insane to think about, but I personally think that this film still holds up magnificently. I think it is timed beautifully. I think the cast, especially of supporting characters, are fantastic. There's one character that I didn't mention named Tucker. He's one of Alex's partners. He is fantastic. I've always loved him as a kid, and I love Ethan Hawke in this movie, and I love the dog. Yeah, so that's my love for the movie, and I know, V, this was your first time, so I'm curious what you thought of White Fang as your first go-around.
I just have one question for you.
Okay.
How dare you? There is so much animal trauma and stress in this movie. I couldn't handle it. I was so upset through like half of this movie. I was like, no, not the dogs, not the dogs. Like the whole time. I was so upset. Thank God I watched this by myself because I totally cried.
Oh, yeah. No, I sobbed during this movie. This is a sob movie for sure.
Just from the...
And right at the beginning, though, there's a whole thing saying that all the dogs and animals were monitored and it was all simulated and no animals were harmed during the making of this movie.
Yes, and that content warning at the very beginning, at the top with the title cards, had me worried from the beginning. I was like, oh shit,
gotcha.
What am I about to watch? And I was right. This movie...
it's intense. There's some intense moments in this movie.
Well, the very beginning is like Bambi for dogs. You didn't even give me a heads up about that either.
Why would I? No spoilers here, V. No spoilers.
Come on.
No. I know you're a bleeding heart animal freak like myself, but
yes.
No, I couldn't. This was not one of those movies where I was going to... I don't really warn you about
the
movies
that I choose.
Do. So, why would I start now?
I would rather watch something like Trainspotting than see an animal get hurt in a film. I don't care that it's fake.
Yeah, I get you.
Yes, trigger warning, there are some very intense scenes, thank God, that there are messages at the beginning and the end of this movie, so that's really, really nice, but it was very intense. Otherwise, I absolutely love this film. The scenery is absolutely incredible.
Oh, yeah. So
just
gorgeous.
That, it's worth watching, but beyond it, it's a great story. It's well acted. Ethan Hawke is such a baby in this movie. I wonder how old he was in 1991.
Yeah, he was. He was a young pup. Ha-ha! He was 20 years old when he went into production on this movie.
I could see it. Okay. And as most of you know, he's been acting since he was a kid, and he's still busy to this day. So he's had a great career. It's nice to see him, especially because I'm not a huge fan of Dead Poets Society. It was nice to see him younger in a role.
Definitely.
And the guy who plays Beauty, James Remar, is always a good villain. He's always such a good creep who you just want to... He's so smirky, you just want to punch him in the face.
I know. And that gap between his teeth just makes him look even worse.
Oh, and the fact that he conned Greybeard by having his dog attack White Fang and lie to him about it in order to steal White Fang was so shitty.
So fucked.
But he's actually been in a pick of ours in the past because in The Girl Next Door...
Oh, yeah!
He's the porn king in
That's right. Oh, my gosh. That's hilarious.
He's also a really annoying FBI agent in Too Fast, Too Furious. He's the one that Tyrese punches in the face.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Okay. I have not seen Too Fast, Too Furious in like 7 years, but I completely believe you on that.
He also was in Sex and the City for a lot of episodes. He played Samantha's boyfriend, Richard.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
he was also in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer and in Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis.
Yes, he was. Yeah, he's a great character actor. He's been around for a long time, and he always gives a great performance, so I was really happy to see him in this movie. And yes, he plays a great villain.
Yeah.
And there's a scene in this movie with a bear that was quite spectacular.
Oh, hell yeah. That bear's name is Bart the Bear.
I was wondering if that was Bart. Yeah, he was really famous in the 90s. He was also in Legends of the Fall.
Oh, was he really? Cool.
Yeah, he's
a big bitch.
He's huge, and he performed in a bunch of films.
That's awesome. Yeah, that scene as a child, even now, I was sitting here like holding a pillow. I was like, God, I know how this ends, but this is still so terrifying. It's funny because I felt like this scene was actually worse, oddly enough, than in The Revenant, strangely. I don't know why. I was like, this just, probably because the bear was real in White Fang and not in The Revenant. Nothing against Inarritu or DiCaprio, but yeah, Bart the Bear is quite the badass.
And the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because it seemed practical. Everything in that scene seemed practical, and I'm wondering if you have any behind-the-scenes trivia on that.
Just that it was done practically and that Bart and Ethan Hawke worked together in that scene.
So it was Ethan Hawke in that scene.
Yep, he's in there. Yeah, he's
awesome.
Running away from Bart and falling all over himself and then getting into that tree trunk situation.
Yeah, it absolutely looked like him, so I was wondering if they did put him in front of a bear, so that's great.
Yeah. There's one scene where Jack does fall down a very big slope, and that was definitely a stunt player, but in that scene with Bart the Bear, that was all Ethan Hawke.
Awesome. So yes, I really enjoyed this movie. I'm glad I finally watched it. It's a great kids and family movie. It is really intense. I'm going to be honest, I skipped several. I just did the little 10 seconds ahead in Disney Plus through the dogfighting because I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, the dogfighting stuff is very realistically put together.
Even though they say it's, thank God, there were monitors on set for all of the animals, which is great.
Yes.
But just for me personally, it's like with Avatar: The Way of Water when I had to walk out when they do the whale hunting scene. It's all CGI. I still can't handle it.
Yep.
But yes, other than that, great film. Highly recommend. It still totally holds up. And I'm really glad you introduced me to it this week.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. Glad you enjoyed it. Sorry that I didn't give you a warning. I never will do that. You know me.
Yes, I do.
But I am glad that you were able to survive and make it to the end of the movie, because some people would probably shut it off based on the fact that the dogfighting sequences are very realistic, and especially when that pit bull shows up. Oh, that was intense.
Yes, and so because of the whole movie, even from the beginning, there are a lot of dramatic scenes, there's a lot of intense scenes, and also sad pieces of this plot. I had a lot of anxiety through the last 20 or so minutes of the movie, because I kept just thinking to myself, okay, what's going to happen next? Okay, what else is going to be thrown their way? Oh my God.
Right. Yeah, it definitely has a good amount of adult action going on in this movie.
Good suspense.
Very good suspense. Like you said, the scenery is incredible. This was shot on location. They began production on February 26th of 1990, and the production of the movie was a 5-month long production. And Randall Kleiser, thank you so much for doing as much practicality as you can, because CGI was still up and coming in the early 90s, and there's literally no CGI in this movie.
Yes, that's the incredible piece, and I love that they filmed in different seasons, and it makes sense that it was a 5-month-long shoot because of that. As you said, Jack starts off in Alaska in the wintertime, there's lots of snow, and then we get towards the end of the movie, and it's so beautiful up there, and they're all wearing t-shirts, so, well, I mean, whatever T-shirts were back in the day.
Yeah,
you know
shorter
what I mean.
sleeves. Yeah, exactly.
Not tunics. It's too late for that in the 1800s. They don't wear tunics anymore, but it's before T-shirts. But you know what I mean.
I do. And I mentioned last week that this film has one of Hans Zimmer's earlier scores in this movie, but he doesn't get a credit in this movie.
What?
So at the opening, the score was written by Basil Polidouris. His score was not super well received off the bat, so Hans Zimmer was hired to write another score. So throughout this entire movie, we have both of these composers' scores just kind of meshed into one.
Similar to The Last of the Mohicans, where they had a couple different composers.
Yes.
I think both of our movies have great scores this week.
Oh, yes. I have always hummed the opening music of White Fang. If I ever find the soundtrack on vinyl or even cassette tape, I'm very likely to grab it because it's just so good, so sweeping, and it really fits the movie beautifully.
I bet you could find something on eBay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I never think about eBay for stuff like that. I really should start to utilize eBay.
Oh, yeah. Lots of people sell vinyls on eBay. Speaking of vinyls, I am super jealous, but also really pumped for you that you were able to find a fantastic copy of Lawrence of Arabia on vinyl.
That was a great find. $5 at a local bookstore in town.
Yeah, and just the condition of it, I was so impressed.
Yes, it sounds fantastic. Now, this piece of trivia, V, will very likely blow your mind because White Fang has been in a movie that you have chosen before. White Fang, played by Jed, was the dog alien in John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh my God, he's famous!
Yes,
I love
he
that
is.
so much. That's amazing. He will
I knew
live
that
forever
would be, yes, he will.
in movie history.
Yes, he will.
Oh, thank you
Yeah,
for that
two
piece
great-
of trivia.
Two great movies. Oh, yeah, of course. I almost texted you when I was watching the movies, like, I was like, nah, I gotta wait for the actual reaction. I got to hear this and see this. So, yeah, that was a really cool piece of trivia to find out about Jed, the dog who plays White Fang, the Alaskan Malamute Timberwolf hybrid dog. So awesome.
So beautiful. And there's a meme going around the internet. It's been going around for a long time, but it's just completely diabolical, and it's a poster of Homeward Bound with all of the dogs on it.
Oh, yeah.
And it says, "It's been so many years since Homeward Bound was released. All of these dogs have now died of old age." And it's like, God damn you.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Chance and Shadow and Sassy are all gone. That's too bad.
Unfortunately, Jeb is too.
Yeah, Jed, unfortunately, did pass away in 1995.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess, yeah, that makes sense, because he was acting since the 80s.
Exactly. Look at that. He was acting. Yeah,
What
he's such a good actor.
dog.
Good acting puppet dude.
I mean, he's a better actor than Gal Gadot.
Well, that's not that difficult, but yes. Yeah. Jed definitely had a lot more emotionality in his face than Gal Gadot does.
Exactly.
Now, I don't normally do a lot of this kind of thing with actors and directors, but I did want to talk a little bit about Randall Kleiser. The guy has been around for a long time. He not only has directed White Fang, but he directed Flight of the Navigator.
Classic
film. Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, which nobody liked, but I kind of like. I don't have a horrible problem with it.
Shrunk the Kids.
Shrunk the Kids is the best, of course.
Should have only been a standalone movie.
Yep, I agree. But Randall Kleiser did direct Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, which was a fun 4D experience.
Oh, okay, that could be fun, actually.
Yeah, I did it once or twice, and it was really neat. I vaguely remember it, but I actually remember Captain EO at Disneyland more than Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, but it was still really cool.
I was going to say, was that a Disneyland experience?
It was actually a Disneyland experience, and it was in play before Captain EO came out, so getting to see both of those at Disneyland was really cool.
Awesome.
And Randall Kleiser directed one of the most famous musicals from back in 1978, starring John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. He directed Grease.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, pretty
cool. A lot of
cool.
people will be a big fan of him then.
Big time. Yeah, he had quite the career, and he's still going.
He's still alive?
He is still alive.
Oh, very cool. Okay. I've never been a fan of Grease.
I liked it as a kid. I don't like it anymore.
I think it has horrible messaging.
It absolutely does. Yeah, it really does. And some of the songs are still catchy, but it's kind of like every time I go into a freaking karaoke bar, they always have to do the Grease mashup, and everybody butchers the shit out of it. So I have kind of grown to not want to ever hear any of the Grease songs ever again.
I never saw Grease 2, though.
Neither did I. A lot of people say that one's the superior one.
Yeah, and I think it has Michelle Pfeiffer in it, right?
It does have Michelle Pfeiffer.
Maybe one of these days on like a Saturday afternoon we throw that on.
Maybe. I wouldn't be too opposed to it. Now, White Fang was released on January 18th of 1991. The budget for this movie, V, why don't you give it a guess? Budget for White Fang, 1991, Ethan Hawke, practical locations, practical stunts, etc. What do you think?
Yeah, I was actually thinking this would be larger than I figured. Let me guess $35 million.
Ooh, yeah, that's really large. It was not $35 million. A little smaller than that.
Really? Wow, I'm actually
Yes.
kind of shocked. Okay, 20.
Almost. Budget was $14 million.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah.
That's really impressive. I thought because they had to build so many sets, they had to get all the way to Alaska. There was
Yeah.
a lot of animal handling involved. It's a 5-month shoot. That's impressive.
Yep, for $14 million, it's pretty impressive. Opening weekend, it garnered $5.6 million. Domestically, it pulled in $34.7 million,
There
and
we go.
worldwide, it pulled in $41 million.
Hey, fantastic. And I am sure it did really well with VHS sales.
Oh, you better believe it. It really did very, very well. I didn't get an actual number, but it was one of the higher selling VHS for Disney. And this actually was their 127th live action movie.
Nice. Okay.
And I have done the year 1991, I think, once before, maybe a few times. I honestly, truly, I know, V, you absolutely have. But let's see. V, what do you think the highest grossing domestic box office film of 1991 was? It was a sequel.
Yes, you've only ever done 1991 once, and that was almost exactly a year ago because it was for last year's Mother's Day episode.
Oh, snap. Defending Your Life.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so it's a sequel, 1991.
Yes,
It's not Home Alone 2 because that came out in 1992.
exactly.
So did Addams Family Values.
Right.
Batman Forever is 1992's highest grossing film of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's also a sequel. Jesus, 1992 had great sequels.
Yes, it did.
Can you give me a hint?
I can give you a hint.
Oh, is it Terminator 2?
It is Terminator 2, Judgment Day.
Just came to me.
Sweet. Yeah, great movie, of course. We're big fans of that one here.
Yes, we
The
are.
second highest grossing film, Robin Hood and the Prince of Thieves.
Speaking of good scores.
Yes. Oh, hell yeah. I'm looking forward to watching that one again. It's been a very long time for me.
Same. I don't even care if it holds up or not. I just want to revisit it at this point.
Exactly.
Alan Rickman will always hold up, so we got that going for it.
Hell yeah. The third highest grossing film, Home Alone. Number 4, V, a past pick of yours, The Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
Number 5, City Slickers. Number 6, Dances with Wolves, which I've only seen one time and I did not care for it. And I've thought maybe one day I'll revisit it, but I don't think I'm going to.
So I loved it as a kid. Speaking of dogs and dogs dying,
Yeah.
I loved that movie as a kid. I watched it a whole bunch of times, and then my sister rewatched it a few years ago. I hadn't seen it in like 20 some odd years, and my
Oh,
sister
wow.
Shannon rewatched it a few years ago just to give it a try. And she texted me, she's like, "Never watch Dances with Wolves again." I was like,
Yeah, I
"All
remember
right."
it was really boring. The seventh highest grossing film, Julia Roberts and Sleeping with the Enemy. Number 8, The Addams Family.
I always forget Sleeping with the Enemy was that popular. It's a really good film. Patrick
I've
Bergin
never
is
seen it.
terrifying.
Yeah, I've heard it's good. I've never seen it.
Yeah, she's in an abusive marriage.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. The 10th highest grossing film, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze.
That's a great sequel.
Definitely. Number 11 was Backdraft. Number 13, Beauty and the Beast. Number 15, What About Bob? Number 16, another Arnold Schwarzenegger-led film, Kindergarten Cop.
Oh, that's the 1991 movie I picked, Beauty and the Beast. Duh.
There it is,
Yeah.
yes. And Silence of the Lambs.
And so that's right.
And number 24 is a future pick of yours from 1991, starring the beautiful Jennifer Connelly and Dalton.
Oh, The Rocketeer.
Yes.
So excited for that film.
Same. Number 26, another past pick of yours with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze of Point Break.
Yeah. Directed by Catherine Bigelow.
Yeah. Number 29, The Fisher King, great movie with Robin Williams and Jeff Bridges. Number 33, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, another great sequel.
Never saw any of those movies. I know your
Oh.
wife would be pissed.
Yeah, she would. Number 35 was Soap Dish, which is a very entertaining flick. And the 37th highest grossing film, domestic box office of 1991, was my pick this week of White Fang.
Wow, top 50. That's amazing.
I know. So excited when I read that. And this is one thing that I want to read before, V, we switch into your movie. This is a disclaimer from the Defenders of Wildlife from Washington, D.C. This popped up at the end of White Fang. Jack London's White Fang is a work of fiction. There has never been a documented case of a healthy wolf or pack of wolves attacking a human in North America. Because wolves were systematically eliminated throughout most of the United States during our early history and continue to be persecuted today, a nationwide effort is underway to reintroduce wolves into wilderness areas and ensure their survival for generations to come. Now, things have changed a little bit since 1991, and this statement was released, but that also has started to go back into effect, which is great. So, very glad to read that. Very glad you enjoyed the movie. I love White Fang. If you care to check it out, if you have not ever seen this movie, it is currently streaming on Disney Plus and on Amazon Prime. I watched my DVD copy, and now I think it's time to stay ice cold and hang out with some more dogs. What do you say, V? Want to jump into yours?
Yes, let's do that. But before we do, I actually wanted to bring up one other thing about Jack London specifically, since he was the author of White Fang, the book that inspired this movie, or this movie was adapted from that book, I should say.
Okay.
Jack London came up to Ukiah all the time, which is the town right next to the one I grew up in Northern California.
Oh, cool.
He would often take the train from Oakland to Ukiah and spent tons of times at Vichy Springs, which was a hot spring up there.
Nice.
So even since I was a kid, there's been signs for Vichy Springs, and it's a billboard on the side of the highway, and it says Jack London's favorite spot.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes, I had read White Fang and The Call of the Wild as a teenager, and there's a reason why I didn't remember the story at all, is because I think I actively blocked it from my brain because it was really traumatizing, which is why I was looking at this movie with fresh eyes. But one of these days, maybe I'll reread those books.
I would really like to reread White Fang. I did not mention, but I did read it once as a child, and I don't remember much of it. And I also read Call of the Wild as well.
Yeah, Jack London was a great writer.
That he was.
Okay, so now we're ready to get into my film. Again, thank you so much for introducing me to White Fang this week. I really appreciate it. I'm really glad I enjoyed it.
Me too.
And now we're going to stay kind of in the same time frame. Funny enough, my film takes place a couple years after yours, and my film was filmed a few years after yours as well.
Sweet.
Because I picked 1994's Disney live-action Iron Will.
Yeah.
This is the 141st live-action film produced by Disney.
Oh, sweet.
So in like 3 years, they made 20 live-action movies?
Apparently so.
Holy
that's
shit.
So insane. Wow. Yeah,
But
that's nuts.
They were busy in the 90s, that makes sense.
Big time.
And we are traveling south a little bit to South Dakota in 1917. We are introduced to Will Stoneman and his family. They run not only the local mail, but his dad is also a furniture maker. And because they do the mail, especially because it's South Dakota in the wintertime, they use dogs and sleds to do it. So they have a nice little family. It's him and his parents, and they have a little farm that actually makes a little bit of money. And everything's going really well. Will has been accepted into college, and they're really excited about that and talking about how they're going to pay for it. And his parents insist that they're going to make it work. Will does not need to stay on the farm. They really want him to succeed and fulfill his dreams. So all is going according to plan until one day they are out in the woods getting firewood by chopping down trees and then putting the logs on their sleds, and the dogs are bringing them back to the farm. Unfortunately, they're going by a river, and the ice breaks, and Will's dad actually sinks into the river with the sled because he's caught on it. Will and the dog team tried to save him, but unfortunately they're being pulled in too, so in an act of selflessness, his dad grabs a knife, cuts the rope connecting the dogs to the sled, and unfortunately he sinks under the water with it.
That was a tough one.
That was, which actually is a weird connection to our films because both of them have dead dads now.
That's true.
So now what is the family to do? Will and his mom have the farm to take care of, but they don't have the income from his dad's furniture business. And Will definitely can't go to college now. They're talking about selling the farm, and his mom even suggests selling his dad's beloved mushing dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But, thankfully, a flyer has come in the mail for a dog sledding race. It takes place from Winnipeg, Canada to St. Paul, Minnesota. It's 500 miles of some of the most brutal terrain in the world, especially in the wintertime. The purse is $10,000. And today that money would be worth $250,000.
Whoa, damn.
So that could not only save their farm, but allow Will to go to college, so of course Will wants to sign up. But he's 17. And this is a rugged, dangerous race. His mom doesn't want him to do it, and neither does Ned, who is a Native American who works on their farm.
Yes, I recognized him. He's in Free Willy.
Oh, I only saw Free Willy once, and I was like 8.
Once? Oh my gosh. I used to love Free Willy. I don't know if it holds up anymore.
So yes, he's in this film too, playing Ned, and he finally gets convinced by Will to train him for this race that's coming up in a little over a month. And so he does, and Will spends the next month working really, really hard in the woods, trying to get enough endurance and enough stamina and enough strength to do it. Will then signs up and heads to Winnipeg with his team to start this race. Now, there's a little bit of confusion at the welcome banquet because J.W. Harper, who owns a railroad and is the main sponsor of this race, really doesn't want him in it. They think he's too young, and they say because he's a late entrant, he actually owes $10 in late fees, and he doesn't have any money. He only has $2 to his name. And so they try to use that to make Will get out of there and not be part of this race. But here comes Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
He plays Harry Kingsley, who is a cutthroat newspaper reporter, and he offers to pay Will's late fee. I really like him in this film. I'm not going to talk about Kevin Spacey too much, not only because everybody will recognize him. We've talked about him multiple times on this podcast with different picks, including Baby Driver that you picked a couple months ago.
Yes.
But I really do like his character in this movie because he has a ton of tenacity. He's trying really, really hard to get back to an actual desk in Chicago for this newspaper. He doesn't want to be out in the sticks anymore. And so he is pretty unscrupulous. He tries to use people as much as he can. And I just thought his character had a lot of great layers to it in this movie, which is why I liked it.
I really enjoyed his character quite a bit.
And it was his first Disney film.
Oh, cool.
And then he later voiced Hopper in A Bug's Life.
That's right.
Can't wait to do that on the podcast, too.
That'll be a fun one.
And so now that Will has a little bit of an ally in Harry Kingsley, the reporter, he's now part of the race, and he signs up, and they are all ready to go. And some of the other racers are really hesitant to have him in there, especially this guy named Gullerson. He's from Sweden. He's a champion, and he is the movie's villain. Well, there are several, but he's the movie's main villain. As soon as he kicks Will's dog, it's on for me. I'm like, well,
oh, yeah.
I hate you all the time, forever. Okay, so now this race has started, and no one thinks that Will is going to be able to finish. All of the big barons who are on the train and nice and warm, being fed and given alcohol and cigars throughout this race, and they're following along by train, including Brian Cox, who plays Angus McTeague.
Yeah.
He's one of the barons in this movie. He's great in it. He's got a wonderful accent. We've talked about him a lot on this podcast because not only is he the patriarch in Succession, he was in Red that we talk about a lot. He's the older Stryker in X2, but more recently in December, he plays Nathan, who helps out Gina Davis in The Long Kiss Goodnight.
That's right.
So he and J.W. Harper, the railroad baron, and they both sponsored this race, they start taking bets on how long Will is going to last. And J.W. Harper is actually played by David Ogden Stiers. He was in MASH for the entire length of the series. He's Major Winchester.
Oh, cool. I've never seen MASH.
I haven't either, but the reason I bring him up is because he did a lot of work for Disney. He's Governor Ratcliffe in Pocahontas.
Ah.
And in my pick of Beauty and the Beast just a couple weeks ago, he voices Cogsworth and the narrator.
Nice.
So we're big fans of David Ogden Stiers on the show.
Hell yeah.
And so they're betting, and we still have Harry Kingsley, played by Kevin Spacey, trying to make this a story so he can get back to his Chicago desk. And he starts trying to drum up more interest, and his articles throughout this race is over a week long, and his articles keep being relegated to like page 9. And so he sends one of his assistants to South Dakota to interview Will's mom and try to exploit that angle and the fact that he has a dead dad, just trying to pull at the heartstrings of his readers to really garner a lot more interest in this race and this kid, Will Stoneman. And he does. And one of the reasons he does, and this actually leads to the title of this film, is when he's writing one of his articles.
Heroic, unbelievable. Over the last 4 days and nights in a dog sled race running between Winnipeg and St. Paul, a 17-year-old
courageous, sacrificing, mighty capacity.
Will Stoneman, the plucky 17-year-old hailing from South Dakota. Torture.
Someone's life. He's the last American hope in this race, racing through the night, driven by his own iron will with a courage. Wait a minute. Hold it. Iron Will. That's great. Kingsley, you're a genius.
Iron Will Stoneman, American hero. Iron Will Stoneman.
Iron Will Stoneman.
Iron Will Stoneman.
So now Will has a really cool nickname. And throughout this race, Will is actually using his dad's dogs, including a really beautiful white husky named Gus.
Yeah, I love that dog.
Who has a bit of a temperament, doesn't respect Will because he was his dad's dog, and it takes Will a lot of effort to try to get him on his side so they can work together. And one of the ways he does that is using the whistle that his dad used to run his team. So he had a whistle before the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
I've always loved it. I've always thought it meant a lot, and hearing it will always bring me back to this movie. I've been watching this movie since I was a kid. I've loved it since then, too. I haven't watched it in a while. I'm so glad it held up. I had such a good time revisiting this film, and for the rest of the movie, Will continues to run this race and battles not only with the elements, trying to get his dad's dogs to work with him, but also battles a lot of the other racers, including this guy named Gullerson. But he does have one ally because there is another American in this race, played by Rex Linn, who's a great character actor. He plays McPherson in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's the FBI agent in Rush Hour that has to talk to Chris Tucker.
Yes, that's where it was. I was watching this movie, I'm like, who is this dude? I know who he is. Seen him before.
Oh yeah, we've seen him in a bunch of places, including The Long Kiss Goodnight, because he plays... He plays the John who Samuel L. Jackson cons in the beginning of the film.
Yes, that's right. Hell yeah.
He also is in the other Gina Davis, Rennie Harlan movie, Cutthroat Island, that I mentioned when I was talking about Long Kiss Goodnight. And, and I know specifically my dad loves Cutthroat Island, so I'll tell him Rex Linn plays Mr. Blair, who is the second mate. He's the bald guy with the awesome face tattoos in Cutthroat Island.
Okay, I've never seen that movie.
It's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Ah, right. Maybe it'll be on the list sometime.
Yeah, and Rex Linn was also had a really prominent role in Cliffhanger, too. So he's been around. He's been a character actor for a really long time, and he's really helpful, and he's really supportive of Will in this movie. He plays a great character of McPherson in it. And the last actor I want to talk about this film, even though he has a really small part, Richard Reilly plays Burton, who is the dad of this girl that Will likes in town at the beginning of the film.
Oh, yeah.
The guy's only in 1 or 2 scenes in the movie, but he has 436 credits to his name.
Wow.
I mainly recognize him as Tom from Office Space. I'm a people person, damn it!
Oh, wow.
It's my jump to conclusions, Matt.
Damn.
So that's where you'll recognize Richard Reilly from.
Very cool.
Yeah. But the guy's been all over the place for decades in Hollywood. Like I said, 436 credits, which is bonkers.
Yeah, when he showed up too, I was like, I know this guy too. But yeah, he's in Office Space and 400 other things. So
yeah.
Definitely know who he is.
Exactly. And so that's Iron Will. I really love this film. I love the scenery, the score, everything about it is just so uplifting, so heartfelt, has a really wonderful message about working and persevering to make your dreams come true. I've loved it since I was a kid. I still love it to this day. And I know John hasn't seen it in a handful of years either, so I'm wondering what this week's viewing was like.
It had been a very long time. I do have this on VHS. I think the last time I might have watched it was 10 or something. It's been a long time.
Okay.
And it's not one of those movies that I constantly go back to, but I remember liking it as a kid, and the last rewatch was good. And this time around was no different. I had a very good time with it. There's some solid laughs, and there's some solid, intense moments. I got choked up a few times.
Oh, yeah. I
Gus
cry
the dog
every time I watch this film.
Oh, I'll bet you do.
I'm not ashamed to admit that I cry in movies freely.
No, I know you're not, and I do as well. Like I said, I sobbed during White Fang, but I got choked up in this one. I didn't really cry, but it was emotionally exhausting watching this movie. Kind of similar to certain scenes in White Fang. Just like, my gosh, not only for the actors, but thinking of the crew behind the camera and where base camp is and all this kind of stuff. Just like, what the hell? How was this shot? How did this go down?
And they did such a great job of depicting how the elements were affecting Will and the other racers.
Oh, yeah.
The makeup on his face and on his skin was so well done. He has the worst chapped lips in history.
Yeah, God, horrible.
I just like the
Frostbitten
realism.
nose.
Oh, yeah. The realism they added to this movie because of the race was really, really well done.
It was, yeah. And it was great to see Brian Cox and Kevin Spacey and all these other actors that you mentioned show up in this movie from 1994. And I thought it was a perfect pairing for White Fang, so I think this episode is definitely going to be a lot of fun for our audience and just for you and me to get to revisit both of those. I liked Mackenzie Aston as well, thought he was great. His mom was good. The supporting cast, definitely a lot of fun. The dogs were always fun to look at. And overall, yeah, I give this movie, I would give it like a B-. Definitely a good movie, a rewatchable flick. Nothing that I probably would continually go to every year, but it's definitely one of those, like, you need something uplifting, you need something fun and entertaining and adventurous next to White Fang. I would definitely go with Iron Will.
Yeah, and I think the proper grading would actually be against other Disney live-action films. You don't want to pit this against every movie ever made, obviously.
No.
But for a Disney live-action film, I think it's a solid A-.
Okay.
They made a lot of really great live action. As we've talked about, this was the 141st live action film that Disney had made. And we've done a couple other ones on this show. And most of them really stick the landing. They always have really great messages, really tug at your emotions as well. I always really enjoy myself when I want to go back to those kinds of films.
For sure.
And now White Fang is added to the list. And yeah, Mackenzie Astin hasn't been in... He's a solid working actor. He has various TV guest roles. He's had single episode guest spots on tons and tons of shows over the years. But his mom was Patty Duke. She was an Oscar-winning actress for The Miracle Worker. She played Helen Keller in that film. And then she went on to be this amazing advocate for mental health, for AIDS research. She was a really incredible woman. And Mackenzie's dad was actually John Astin, who was Gomez in the original Addams Family TV series.
Oh, that's pretty badass.
Which means Mackenzie's brother is Sean Astin.
Yeah, very cool.
The Goonies, Rudy, and as Samwise Gamgee in Lord of the Rings.
Yes, I think I'm one of the only people on the planet that thought Rudy was a completely overhyped movie. I never liked that movie.
I found it really boring until the last 10 minutes, but I also watched that when I was 17, so maybe I was seeing it.
I watched it in high school. It was one of those like, this is a great... my favorite Sean Astin role is Encino Man, I think, which is coming up in the future.
Nice. And so that's Mackenzie Astin. He comes from a very famous family. Beyond all that, this movie is actually a fictionalized account of the 1917 Winnipeg to St. Paul dog sled race. It was a real race.
Oh, wow. Oh, cool. Okay. That's actually a lot of fun to know. I thought this was something made up.
No, it was actually sponsored by the Great Northern Railway, so that was also accurate. The main character, Will Stoneman, is actually based on two real-life participants. One was Albert Campbell, and because he was a native from Manitoba, he endured tons of harassment from his competitors because of racism.
Oh, wow.
And the other competitor that they got inspiration from was a man named Fred Hartman, who was one of the only U.S. participants in the race.
Oh, cool.
And U.S. newspapers grabbed onto that story and made him a hero and very famous because of the race, because he was the U.S. racer to root for.
All right. Very cool.
Yeah. And most of the movie was filmed in northern Minnesota in the wintertime.
All right. It's still cold.
Cold as shit up there, yeah.
Hell yeah.
It was actually right near the town of Duluth, and so most of Duluth citizens in 1990 when they were filming were extras, especially for the scene at the end of the race.
Well, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, but I think the cooler aspect of it is that the trains used in the movie, as I said, they're the ones that moved the barons from stop to stop on this race so they could follow it. They were real. They were from the Lake Superior Railroad Museum. And I wanted to mention this because not only my sister Suzanne, but my buddy Sachet are obsessed with trains. So I want to tell them they were real trains and they actually ran them. And because they were historical and because they were real, actors could not play the engineers or the conductors on these trains.
Really?
Yes, they had to use volunteer employees from the museum in order to run these trains.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, I thought that was super cool.
That's pretty wild. Yeah.
Very practical.
Big time.
And one of the reasons I think this movie is really good is because it actually had some pretty solid writers. John Michael Hayes, this was his last script of his career. He also had written The Man Who Knew Too Much, To Catch a Thief, and Rear Window.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah, he wrote some really great movies.
I'll say so.
Jeff Arch was also a writer on this film, and he also wrote Sleepless in Seattle.
Hey, all right.
Yeah. And lastly, I can't talk about this film without talking about all the dogs in it as well, because there are many mushing teams. None of the dogs were hurt in the filming of this movie, of course. Want to make sure to get that out of the way, especially because there are several scenes that are a bit intense. Not as bad as your film, but they're stressful for dog lovers. But David Bedford, who is the owner of Black Ice dog sledding equipment, he did all the mushing for one of the racers in this movie, and he used his own 7-dog sled team, as well as had several of his other dogs participate in the other sled teams in this race. And so the big Malamute in this movie is actually his Malamute named Chase.
Oh, very cool.
And filming all those scenes for the races took 3 months. Just the action sequences where they're all mushing.
3 months?
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
So David Bedford is a musher who lent most of his dogs and equipment to this movie so it could get filmed. But speaking of Alaska, and speaking of mushers, if any of you are ever in Alaska, my buddy Jeff King lives up there. He is one of the winningest dog mushers in history. He's amazing. He's won the Iditarod 4 times. Guy's a total badass. He's now retired from racing, so he runs, it's called Husky Homestead. It's outside of Denali. And it's kind of like a dude ranch for mushing, so visitors can come and stay at his ranch and also learn how he trains his dogs and go on sled dog rides and stuff like that.
Very cool.
Yeah, so if you're ever in Alaska like me, check out Husky Homestead.
I will have to do that if I ever get up that way.
Yeah, and so that is Iron Will. I totally agree with you. This was a great pairing. I am so impressed by how well of a pairing this was, actually.
Big time.
And so I'm glad we did it, and any chance and opportunity we have to talk about dogs, of course, we're going to be really happy and excited too.
Hell yeah, we are.
And so give both these movies a try, since they are Disney live-action films. To no surprise to anyone, they can be found on Disney Plus right now, streaming.
Yeah.
And John, would you watch White Fang with your grandma?
Oh yeah, many times I already did when I was growing up. That was similar to the Jungle Book. I was like, what are we going to watch? Oh, I want to watch White Fang. Boom, there it was.
Awesome.
So yeah, I definitely watched it with grandma many times. And would you watch Iron Will with your grandmother?
Oh, totally. I am sure I did. Both of these movies are very family-friendly. Highly recommend them for anybody over... Just because of the intent, like the dog fighting ring in yours and a couple of scenes in my film. What do you think, like 11 and above?
Well, I was 6 when I saw this movie, so I would say 6 and above.
That's so traumatizing. God, I felt traumatized when watching it this week.
Yeah, it was a bit traumatizing, but it's all good.
Okay.
It turned out just fine.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. I think with your movie that it's like 5 and above. Like
Yeah.
that's totally super kid friendly. They're both PG rated movies, but like I said, I've been watching mine since I was a wee little lad.
So that is our Great White North mushing wolf dog episode. That was a lot of fun. I'm really glad we picked these movies.
They are great movies. Definitely a lot of fun to discuss.
And John, do you want to tell our audience what we're doing next week?
Sure, why not? We're going down a very fun rabbit hole, and unfortunately we won't be going chronologically because you go first next week, but
Ooh, bummer.
yeah, it's all good. I chose a movie from 1933. This is a stop-motion live-action film starring a big ape. This is the original King Kong.
Another movie I've never seen before.
Oh, sweet. I got it for Christmas right when it was reissued on DVD. I think this was maybe 15 years ago. I've probably watched it 6 or 7 different times. It's just such an impressive movie. And while Peter Jackson's King Kong is cool, there was no need to make it a 3-hour spectacle. But the OG is great, and just like the Monarch series of the Kong movies, I'm having a blast with those too. But King Kong from 1933, if you care to follow along, you can rent it on Apple or on Amazon for $3.99. I will watch my DVD copy.
Awesome.
And V, what did you choose for next week's stop-motion live-action combination?
I picked a movie that I've been watching since I was a kid. My brother introduced me to this movie back, and he's my younger brother. Back when I was less than 10. I've been watching this movie since I was very, very young. My dad, of course, introduced both of us to this movie, but it was my brother's, one of his favorites, and so he had me watch it with him one time, and I've loved it ever since. It goes along with the claymation stop-motion theme that we're talking about next week, and I've always paired it up with Clash of the Titans, even though that's from 1981, or those old Sinbad movies, not the one you watched for How Did This Get Made, but the ones from the 70s that had amazing claymation monsters in them. I am talking about the 1963 Jason and the Argonauts.
Sweet. Looking forward to that one.
Me too. And unfortunately, you can't stream it anywhere, but you can rent it from almost any place. However, there are a couple of YouTube videos of it, and I think it's the full movie on YouTube, so theoretically you can try it there too.
All right.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for joining us this week. We hope you love dogs as much as we do, and wolf hybrids now too.
Exactly.
Please write us a quick review on Apple Podcasts for us. Not only does it help our podcast so much, but you'll also be entered in to win one of our future contests. So, please write us a quick review on Apple Podcasts. We'd appreciate it. And until next week, we love to end this podcast with film is a form of art, and in art, every opinion is valid, except if you think
it's okay to kill wolves out in the wild for sport.
I'm so against hunting predators. I've always been against hunting wolves, especially because you can now hunt the moms in their dens with their pups.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's so gross. It's unforgivable in my mind.
Yeah, same. That's why I said it.
I totally agree with you.
Sweet.
All right, everybody. Until next week. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.